Hey, number 10, Foyan. We're going to finish up this book today. I'm also going to read a couple other things, and hopefully Buddha wills me to. I think I'll have a shot at a comedic social commentary crazy video coffee talk, but I don't think it's going to work out. I don't know. I don't feel encouraged yet, but I do feel encouraged to finish Zen Master Foyan. Principle and Phenomenon. Grandmaster Yun Min said, "If you really have not yet attained, for now, follow principle to gain discernment." Students of Zen should also proceed in accord with principle, not being so presumptuous as to hope for something transcendental. In general, students nowadays make phenomenon into one extreme and principle into another extreme. This causes them to be physically and mentally uneasy. Why not have phenomenon always conform to principle? Without even talking about the phenomenon of beginningless time, just consider the instant of conception. When there is a sudden change of the physical body and the material world, from that point on, all is phenomenon. Every diverse element in the conditional body is a phenomenon. Right now, how could you clear your mind of these phenomena so as to conform to principle? Phenomenon have discrete forms, while principle is formless. Once the ancients realized the principle, they adapted to phenomenon in accord with principle. Have you not read how someone once clapped his hands and laughed on hearing a signal sound, saying, "I understand, I understand"? Is this not following principle to learn? Why not observe it in this way, 24 hours a day, doing inner work like this? Eventually it will ripen, and you will naturally harmonize with the principle. One of the original Zen masters said, "If you want to attain harmonization quickly, just speak of non-duality." It is not a matter of just saying it and thereupon understanding. You must actually attain harmonization before you can realize this. Goishan said, "Phenomenon and principle are not two. The real Buddha is suchness, as is." I've seen many who cannot follow principle. When they take it up, they turn it upside down at once. They make useless theoretical interpretations of the sayings and model cases of the ancients. Their different challenges, records of seasonal dresses, and the modalities of their individual schools, considering this to be Zen study. How miserable. Study of the path is not like this. People of later generations are even more ignorant, spending 10 or 15 years on vain conceit. They attain nothing at all. If you have unconsciously acquired habits of thinking about yourself and others, and hardly even give a thought to the matter of independence, how will you be in the future? Don't keep standing here. Each of you go out on your own. Keys of Zen Mind. You should not set up limitations in the boundless void. But if you set up limitlessness as the boundless void, you encompass your own downfall. Therefore, those who understand voidness have no concept of voidness. If people use words to describe mind, they never apprehended mind. If people do not describe mind in words, they still do not apprehend mind. Speech is fundamentally mind. You do not apprehend it because of describing it. Speechlessness is fundamentally mind. You do not apprehend it because of not describing it. Because of not describing it. You don't apprehend it because of describing it. Okay. Whatever sorts of understanding you use to approximate it, none tally with your own mind itself. A high master said, "It is only tacit harmony." That high master happens to be Hung Bo, who wrote Transmission of Mind, and we may get to him next, because he really speaks to it. So, it is only tacit harmony. Because it is like this, if you haven't attained the path yet, just do not entertain any false thoughts. If people recognize false thoughts and deliberately try to stop them, it is because you see there are false thoughts. If you know you're having false thoughts and deliberately practice contemplation to affect perception of truth, this is also seeing that there are false thoughts. If you know that falsehood is fundamentally the path, then there is no falsehood in it. Therefore, those who master the path have no attainment. If the path were sought by deliberate intention, the path would be something attained. Just do not seek elsewhere, and realize there is no confusion or falsehood. This is called seeing the path. In recent times, everyone says, "Nothing is not the path." They're like people sitting by a food basket talking about eating. They can never be filled, because they do not themselves partake. Realization obliterates the subject-object split. It is not that there's some mysterious principle besides. In your daily activities, when you see forms, this is an instance of realization. When you hear sounds, this is an instance of realization. When you eat and drink, this is an instance of realization. Each particular is without subject or object. This is not a matter of long-time practice. It does not depend on cultivation. That is because it is something that is already there. Worldly people do not recognize it. They call it roaming aimlessly. That is why it is said, only by experiential realization do you know it is unfathomable. Hold on, I'm realizing thirst and quenchment. People who study the path clearly know there is no such thing. Why do they fail to get the message and go on doubting? It is because their faith is not complete enough and their doubt is not deep enough. Only with depth and completeness, be it faith or doubt, is it really Zen. If you are incapable of introspection like this, you will eventually get lost in confusion and lose the thread, wearing out and stumbling halfway along the road. But if you can look into yourself, there is no one else. Once we say, this matter, how can we know it any more than that? Knowledge may be arbitrary thought, but this matter itself isn't lost. The path is not revealed only after explanation and direction. It is inherently always out in the open. Explanation and direction are expedient methods, used to get you to realize enlightenment. They are also temporary byroads. Some attain realization through explanation, others enter through direction. Some attain by spontaneous awakening. Ultimately, there is nothing different, no separate attainment. It is simply a matter of reaching the source of mind. People say that to practice cultivation only after realizing enlightenment is in the providence of curative methodology, but Zen also admits to using true knowledge and vision as a curative. In terms of a particular individual, however, this may not be necessary. The path of Buddhahood is eternal. Only after long endurance of hard work can it then be realized. It is continuous throughout past, present, and future. The ordinary and the holy are one suchness. This is why it is said, the path of Buddhahood is eternal. If you do not produce differing views, you never leave it. It is the point of long endurance of hard work. Ultimately, there is no separate reality. Thus it is said that it can then be realized. This is a matter for strong people. People who do not discern what is being asked give replies depending on what comes up. They do not know it is something you ask yourself. To whom should you answer? When people do not understand an answer, they produce views based on words. They do not know it is something you answer for yourself. What truth have you found? And where does it lead? Therefore it is said, it is all you. Look, look. Some people say, the verbal teachings given out by the enlightened ones since time ancient circulate throughout the world, each distinctly clear. Why is all this oneself? That is profound ingratitude toward the knowledge of the ancient sages. Hold on, I don't understand this. Okay, hold on. Alright. The whole quote goes, or the whole people say goes, the verbal teachings given out by the enlightened ones since ancient times circulate throughout the world, each distinctly clear. Why is all this oneself? That is profound ingratitude toward the kindness of the ancient sages. I suppose I don't interpret Zen Master's teachings. That's for you. I interpret or I say what I get when I'm doing coffee talk, but while I'm reading, this ain't an instructional manual where I have to explain anything. It's for you to study. Or to ask. You can ask and we'll talk. We'll see what we talk about. But I wasn't supposed to sidetrack. Oh, that's all right. Please continue into the next minute with me. I now reply that I am actually following the source message of the enlightened ones. You yourselves turn your back on it, not I. If you say they have some doctrine, you are thereby slandering the enlightened. Do not be someone who finally cuts off the seed of enlightenment. If you do not discern the ultimate within yourself, whatever you do will be artificial. No matter how much you memorize or how many words you understand, it will be of no benefit to you. Thus it is said, you want to listen attentively to Buddha. Why doesn't Buddha listen to himself? If you seek a formal Buddha outside the listening, it will not resemble you. An adept said, for me to make a statement in reply to you is not particularly hard. Now, if you should gain an understanding at a single saying, that would amount to something. If you do not understand, then I've gone wrong. Students nowadays all consider question and answer to be essential to Zen, not realizing that this is a grasping and rejecting conceptual attitude. Terms such as study in reference to principle and in reference to phenomenon are recently coined expressions. Even if you have a little perception, you still shouldn't stop. Haven't you heard it said that the path of nirvana aims at absolute liberation? You have to be able to monitor yourself. When people proceed on the path because they are confused and do not know their own minds, they come to mountain forests to seek teachers, imagining that there is some special way that can make people comfortable, not realizing that the best exercise is to look back and study your previous confusion. If you do not get this far, even if you go into the mountain forest forever, will be a useless act. Confusion is extremely accessible, yet hard to penetrate. That is why ancient worthies said, it's hard to believe, hard to understand. This is an explanation of the path characteristic of the instant school. Looking into what has been going on is already an expression of change. But what about if you do not do so? Later generations eventually took this statement to refer to plain ordinariness, but it is just failure of understanding and absorption on the part of the latter students. Since time immemorial, there have been two kinds of method. There is true method, which is what is called the exposition that has no interruption, and there is expedient method, which is what is referred to as a subtle response to all potentials. If you gain entry by way of true method, you understand spiritually in a natural and spontaneous manner without needing to make use of contemplation, never to regress, with countless wondrous capacities. If you gain entry by way of expedient method, you must take a seat, wear the clothing, and hereafter see for yourself before you can attain. This is not yet to be considered ultimate. These two kinds of method are one reality and cannot be lost for an instant. Students should think about this. Zefeng said to people, "Do not have me make a statement that refers to you. If there is a statement that refers to you, what use is it? It is simply that the ancient had no choice and could not avoid speaking in these terms. Later people who did not understand the ancient's intentions thought it means that there's nothing to say about oneself. Thus they misunderstood. People nowadays mostly take the immediate mirroring awareness to be the ultimate principle. This is why Zhuangzi said to people, 'Tell me, does it exist in remote uninhabited places deep in the mountains?' Enlightenment of mind and seeing its essence should be like Zuifeng and Zhangxia. Genuine application to reality should be like Nanquan and Jiaozhou. Students nowadays just take the methods of the ancients to be the way of Zen. They are unable to study from the same source as the ancients themselves studied from. It is like a strong man carrying a heavy load over a log bridge without losing his balance. What supports him like this? Just his single-minded attention. Working on the path is also like this. As it says in Scripture, a lion has all of its power, whether he is catching an elephant or a rabbit. If you ask what power we should have all of it is the power of non-deception. If you see anything in the slightest different from mind, you forfeit your own life. Thus, for those who attain the path, there is nothing that is not it. This power is very great. It is only that of the function of the power is made This power is very great. It is only that the function of the power is made deficient by infections of unlimited is made deficient by infections of unlimited misapperception. Misapperception. I don't think I've ever heard that word before. Alright. Without all of these different states, different conditions, different entanglements, and different thoughts, can you transform freely, however you wish, without any obstacle? Only without these different states, different conditions, different entanglements, different thoughts, can you transform. Without them you can transform however you wish, and without any obstacle. Cool. You shouldn't strain to seek the path. If you seek it, you will lose the path. You need not strain to make things fluid. If you try to make them fluid, things remain as they are. If you neither seek nor try to produce fluidity, the path will merge with things. Then what thing is not the path? Suppose a man with clear eyes goes into a jewel mine, but does not know how to go about it. In other words, suppose he thinks he can go in without a torch to light the way. Then, when he bumps his head and hurts himself, he thinks it to be a dangerous cave, not a jewel mine. An intelligent person going in there would take a lamp to light up the mine to view. Then all kinds of jewels could be selected at will and taken out. Similarly, you should be using the light of insight and wisdom 24 hours a day, not letting the six fields of some sense objects hurt you. I need a drink. We have to finish this book, so this video is going to be long, because I've got a special. The appendix of this book is going to be in its own video because it is a different Zen master, so he'll get his own video, and then we'll have a fun story. Only because I like wordplay. So you'll find out. You'll probably find out before you find me telling you about what you'll find out. That's just the reality of it. So anyway, let's see. Let's get back to being a human being who's reading a Zen book with no formalities. Cool. In the old days, Assembly Leader Yang took leave of Foyan along with Ming, but Yang had not yet completely realized the marvel, though he had followed Ming for 20 years. After all, he was not free and untrammeled. Late one night, they sat around the brazier until very late. Ming picked up the fire tongs, hit the embers, and said, "Assembly Leader Yang! Assembly Leader Yang!" Yang clicked his tongue and said with disapproval, "Foxy devil." Ming pointed at Yang and said, "This tired old guy still goes on like this." In this way, Yang finally realized the ultimate end. Nevertheless, he continued to follow Ming to the end of his life. Siming or whatever. Whenever Siming would pose a complex, stimulating questions that the students could not answer, Yang alone hit the mark, and Ming would nod approval. This is called medicine without disease. Few of those who study it attain the essential. Needless to say, mere intellectuals of later times have only Dang, I didn't understand the last paragraph, but it's okay. I'm losing continuity again, and I'm having nerves. Yeah, I'm nervous. Okay. Few of those who study it attain the essential. Needless to say, mere intellectuals of later times have no way to comprehend this matter. Your attainment of it should be like Yang. Your activation of the medicine should be like Ming. Then, hopefully, you will be all right. When you find peace and quiet in the midst of busyness and clamor, then towns and cities become mountain forests. Afflictions are enlightenment. Sentient beings realize true awakening. These sayings can be uttered and understood by all beginners, who construe it as uniform equanimity. But then, when they let their minds go, the ordinary and the spiritual are divided as before. Quietude and activity operate separately. So obviously, this was only an intellectual understanding. You have to actually experience stable peacefulness before you attain oneness. You cannot force understanding. You have to actually In recent generations, many have come to regard question and answer dialogues as the style of the Zen school. They do not understand that what the ancients they do not understand what the ancients were all about. They only pursue trivia, and do not come back to the essential. How strange! How strange! People in olden times asked questions on account of confusion, so they were seeking actual realization through their questioning. When they got a single saying or half a phrase, they would take it seriously and examine it until they penetrated it. They were not like people nowadays who post questions at random and answer with whatever comes out of their mouths, making laughingstocks out of themselves. People who study the path 24 hours a day, never abandoning it for a moment. Even if these people do not gain access to it, every moment of thought is already cultivating practical application. Usually it is said that cultivated practice does not go beyond purification of mind, speech, action, and 6 senses, but the Zen way is not necessarily like this. Why? Because Zen concentration is equal to transcendent insight in every moment of thought. Wherever you are, there are naturally no ills. Eventually, one day, the ground of mind becomes thoroughly clear and you attain complete fulfillment. This is called absorption in one practice. Nowadays, people only work on concentration power and do not open the eye of insight. For them, stories and sayings just become argumentation, unstable mental activity. Zen study is not a small matter. If you do not yet need to transcend the Buddhas and surpass the adepts, once you have attained it, it will not be hard to transcend and surpass them if you wish. And Foyan here ends with a nice little poem, which we're about to do, and then we'll do Seneca's poem later. Well, not later, quite right away, actually. This poem, Sitting Meditation. The light of mind is reflected in emptiness. Its substance is void of relative or absolute. Golden waves all around. Zen is constant in action or stillness. Thoughts arise, thoughts disappear. Don't try to shut them off. Let them flow spontaneously, what has ever arisen and vanished. When arising and vanishing quiet down, there appears the great Zen master, sitting, reclining, walking around. There's never an interruption. When meditating, why not sit? When sitting, why not meditate? Only when you have understood this way is it called sitting meditation. Who is it that sits? What is meditation? Just try to seat it, or to try to seat it, using Buddha to look for Buddha. Buddha need not be sought. Seeking takes you further away. In sitting, you do not look at yourself. Meditation is not an external art. At first the mind is noisy and unruly. There will still be no choice but to shift it back. That is why there are many methods to teach it quiet observation. When you stir up and gather your spirit, at first it scatters helter-skelter. Over a period of time, eventually it calms down, opening and freeing the 6 senses. When the 6 senses rest a bit, discrimination occurs therein. As soon as discrimination occurs, it seems to produce arising and vanishing. The transformations of arising and vanishing come from manifestations of one's own mind. Put your own mind to use, to look back once. Once you've returned, no need to do it again. You wear a halo of light on your head. The spiritual flames leap and shine, unobstructed in any state of mind. All-inclusive, all-pervasive, birth and death forever cease. A single grain of restorative elixir turns gold into liquid, Acquired pollution of body and mind have no way to get through. Confusion and enlightenment are temporarily explained. Stop discussing opposition and accord. When I think carefully of olden days, when I sat coolly seeking, though it's nothing different, it was quite a mess. You can turn from ordinary mortal to sage in an instant, but no one believes. All over the earth is unclarity. Best be very careful. If it happens you do not know, then sit up straight and think. One day you'll bump into it. I humbly hope. The end.